Hey, this is IndigoMusic.com. I'm Rohit, and it's time for Founders Frequency. This is in association with TiE Bangalore chapter, and I've got a very special guest who's joining me today. I've got Tej with me, who is the CEO of IoTReady Technology Solutions Private Limited. Tej, welcome to Founders Frequency.
Hi, Rohit. Thanks for having me.
Tej, tell me, first of all, tell me about your journey. Like, when did the bug of an entrepreneurship bite you?
I wouldn't quite call it a bug. So I was working in the UK about 12 years ago
Okay.
and realized that the work we were doing wasn't quite having the impact that I would have had it to. And I thought it might be easier to try and do things if I were a smaller company. So I actually tried negotiating with my previous company to see if I could take my division and break it out, and they wouldn't agree to it. So yeah, then I moved to Bangalore, started up a small startup. We started off by trying to sell patents.
Okay.
That's where we started. We built and sold 5 patents in the first couple of years of existence. Burnt myself out. Took over a not for profit. 5 years later, started IoT Ready,
All
and there you
right.
go.
What is IoT Radio all about for those viewing this and also listening on radio? What does IoT Ready do?
So we help companies like Big Basket, Flipkart, Vedanta
Okay.
bring traceability to their operations.
Hmm.
This includes things like managing inventory, managing assets, monitoring productivity, and so on. So wherever there is operations and you need some kind of IoT-enabled support to bring traceability so that you know actually what's happening on the ground, we
Okay.
have solutions for that.
Okay. So you're saying whoever integrates your technology into their company will know exactly what's happening on ground. How minute of a detail can they know about it?
So yeah, we're not vision based, so it's not like we're
Yeah.
monitoring the employees all the time, etc.
Yeah.
But usually, let's take an example of Big Basket alone, right? So as
Okay.
in, you buy vegetables from Big Basket,
Okay.
I buy vegetables from Big Basket, and then we get how does this actually happen? So
Yeah.
Big Basket buys the vegetables from a farmer. The
Yeah.
farmer delivers it to a particular warehouse, and from that warehouse, it might have 2 or 3 hops, and then
Right.
gets packaged, and then eventually comes to you. Now,
Correct.
along that entire journey, how do you keep track of how much has actually been purchased, how much was transferred, how much was received, how much was packaged, how much was delivered?
Okay.
And in terms of freshness, is in when was the particular product from, that you
Okay.
actually received. So enabling visibility into all of that used to be, paper-based records or Excel-based records, human data entry. What
Right.
we do is we automate that data collection so that there is no human data entry anywhere in the entire flow,
Okay.
and then the gap between the operations and their software systems is essentially zeroed out, right? So that's the goal.
Okay, all right. But now let's move from what your company is all about to some of the learnings that you've probably learned the hard way or in your journey as an entrepreneur. If you would point one out, or if you just share probably a story about something that you thought was right, or which according to you was right and it turned out to be complete opposite.
I wouldn't quite say complete opposite, but for instance, we are a bootstrap company.
Okay.
And if I had to do it all over, then I think I would have tried raising money in the first couple of years of our journey.
Okay.
That's one
Why
thing.
would you say that?
So what that does is, obviously it accelerates the rate of experiments that you can do in terms of the kind of people you can attract and the oversight as well. So as in having an independent oversight, and vested interests who basically ensure that you're taking the right decisions along the way
Okay.
in hindsight, I think would have been quite valuable. Now we're doing quite well, but I think we would have done quite well a couple of years earlier than we
Okay.
did.
You were saying because you didn't take any, you didn't raise any money and you stayed bootstrapped, your growth has it's been there, but it's taken a longer, duration than
It,
otherwise. Obviously, being bootstrapped also has its own advantages, right? Because you are the complete owner and the complete, you have your say. Your say works at in a bootstrap company.
Oh, absolutely. And that's actually the downside as well, right? So that's what I
It's the
meant by
downside as
independent.
well.
Because, so no man is an island, right?
Yeah.
And the kind of problem statements that we solve are complex problem statements. So today we're working with 3 of the 5 largest quick commerce guys use our systems.
Yeah.
The largest mining companies use our systems.
Okay.
One of the largest pharma companies is using our systems. So, as in, these are critical systems, right?
Yeah.
Now, once they're getting into those kind of critical systems, having a couple of extra voices guiding you, and saying that, okay, hey, maybe this sector is the right one for us, and maybe we should stay away from that sector, is actually quite a valuable. Early on in a startup's journey, I suppose through the journey, having a focused growth
Mm.
is probably a better approach than perhaps what we've taken in terms of we've done multiple sectors. And I
Okay.
think with in hindsight, we would have probably done fewer sectors and we would have done slightly faster growth in those sectors. And that's where I think that having an independent, someone who's not the founder but has enough leverage,
Yeah.
can actually guide that well. Right.
Right. And you also mentioned about some of the biggest quick commerce and a mining company using your technology. Suggestion or maybe a tip would you like to give for those entrepreneurs who are listening in? If they have a good product, how should they pitch it to these big companies?
Well, don't start with a good product, start with a good problem. What we did is basically we went and met tons and tons of people in 2019, just asking for problem statements. We went to an aluminum company, we went to Big Basket, we went to pharma, we went to other folks in the logistics space, etc. And we were like, okay, hey, we have these skills. We know how to build stuff, but we don't know what to build it for, right?
Okay.
So can you tell us? And that's how we zeroed in on the problem state. We didn't sell our first product until 3 years later. So
Okay.
August 11th, 22 is when we shipped our first unit, right?
Okay.
And but because we had identified the problem statement, and because the problem statement was a replicable problem statement, we are now in 1,500 warehouses,
Wow.
right, in 150 cities.
Yeah.
So, and even that scale journey has been painful, but those pains are nice pains, right? And they're like the
Yeah.
growth pains. But if you're building a product and you don't really know where does it fit, which I've been, in a position of before, I think that's a more often than not a losing proposition. I think it's a much simpler problem, much simpler approach. If you know the problem statement, then
Yeah.
you say, okay, hey, I know the problem. I know all of these guys have the problem. I can go have meaningful conversations with them. And
Mm.
especially when you don't have a product to sell, customers are very willing to discuss the problem with you, right? Because
Right.
they know you have nothing to sell to them. So they're very happy discussing the ins and outs and details of it. And then you
Yeah.
can use those insights to actually build the product better.
And it's also safe to say that your technology and your company plays a small role when it comes to getting my groceries delivered from these quick commerce companies.
Oh, I would like to think it's more than a small role, but yeah, absolutely.
Does
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, tell me one tip to a budding entrepreneur or someone who wants to try it out or someone who wants to get into entrepreneur, maybe a student, maybe someone who's in college, maybe someone who's working a corporate job, and if they want to make the switch, what do you think they should do and they shouldn't do?
Right. So yeah, so the only audience that I can probably speak to is folks trying to solve B2B problem statements. And
Right.
for B2B problem statements, as I mentioned, I think focusing on the problem is a great way to start. And one specific thing that I think folks should do, and we should have done a lot more of as well, is going to conferences and going to as many exhibitions as we could have. Be of fly on the wall to start with, observe, see what kind of problem statements folks are talking about, what kind of products people are bringing to those exhibitions. Set up a stall, solicit customers, asking for, okay, hey, we're trying to solve why, and do you have a product to do that? Is a great way to bootstrap your way, because exhibitions cost very little. You can spend a couple of lakhs per exhibition, get great audience. You do that for the first 6 months or so, you have enough inputs for your next startup.
Right, fantastic.
Yeah.
Well, I hope people listening in take these advices and probably implement them in their entrepreneurial journey. Tej, thank you so much for connecting. All the best with your company, IoT Ready.
Oh, that'll be awesome, wouldn't it? Yeah. Thank you, Rohit, and have a nice day.